Welcome to the Evidence Reasons Academy. Hopefully, this will be just a quick update. As some of you know, I was in the aerospace and defense industry for about 20 years. Um, Obviously, I've been very fascinated by military history and science. I was as an engineer in that field, so it's kind of hard to run away from that part of my past. Um, I'd had the privilege of serving as a defense contractor to build systems to defend our country and to serve our men in uniform. It's been an honor. I salute all the veterans out there. And there's some interesting things. It's kind of funny that even opponents in war have a grudging admiration and sometimes eventual comradeship with their opponents. There are numerous stories of, particularly in the aviation community, of men shooting at each other in aerial combat. And if the opponents meet each other after the war, they often form a very lifelong friendship. One instance was Gunther Roll in Germany. He was a World War II ace, decorated several times by Adolf Hitler. He regretted having to kill men. He felt he was serving his country. American airmen, the American airmen that shot him down and blew off Gunter Roll's thumb, they met after the war and became friends. It's amazing it happens. All this to say, wounds heal. Thank God for that. And hopefully there'll be peace. Although Jesus said there will be wars and rumors of wars. So it's with mixed feelings that I look back at my involvement in military affairs. I've had kind of a grim fascination with the whole enterprise still. To be good at it, you have to be fascinated with it at some level. I was watching Ukrainians setting up an artillery strike with drones and then artillery pieces to knock out a Russian BMP. A BMP, I think, is some sort of military transport, armored military transport. And the Ukrainian soldiers were just laughing. They said, this is like cheering for a football game. And it was. If you saw their attitude, they're just, the reconnaissance guys were flying their drones and saying, hey, we see the target. Here are the coordinates. And the guys coordinating the artillery were just kind of joking around. They said, okay, we'll just get that little cross pointed right over there, the crosshairs. And they said, do you think you could take out the roof and get it through into the I guess, the interior? And they're just saying, yeah, I think we can. And so they order the fire, take a shot. They have really precise artillery, those Ukrainians. I don't know how they can fire. They use NATO doctrine, which is one shot, one kill. Whereas the Russian doctrine, it's kind of area, like a shotgun. You just you take 40, 50 shots, you saturate an area, and maybe you get the target. Here they're trying to get an armored Russian vehicle, and then also trying to target, I guess, a headquarters building or something like that. I saw the sequence. These guys were just joking around. Say, all right, and they're all cheering and say, go, let's go get those guys. Just the kind of almost nonchalant about it. It's just like they were, I mean, honestly, I've seen guys have more excitement playing a video game about war than the way these guys were doing it. They were almost like accountants. And yeah, it's kind of a grim affair, but they had coolness and efficiency. And it struck me that they were just kind of like, all right, we took care of that, on to the next target. Said, we're done with this target. And then they would move to the next. And you can kind of see how they're doing bean counting. Modern warfare is just so different. You don't see these massed formations like you did in the Napoleonic War, where you had huge formations of guys. It's all sparse and spread out. I mean, you have these little units hiding in the trees. I mean, guys, maybe just one or two guys, and they're going to take on Russian armor. What they do is they get the drones, they identify the location, and then they cell phone it back or radio it back. I think they use cell phones to say, okay, here are the coordinates, and just hit the guys. And they really just looked like guys just flying their drones. It was, I remember as a kid flying remote control airplanes. It was fun. And it, I mean, these guys really didn't look like they were in battle, but they were. They're about to kill guys, and they're just kind of casually just, just like a remote controlled toy flying that drone around, and it's reconnoitering the battlefield. I mean, the guys are very brave. I mean, because they have to get positioned near the front, close enough to the front line so that their drone, it would be in range of their drones, both for radio communication and also the distance the drone has to fly. So I'm thinking this is just, not too many kilometers away from where the action is. You don't see guys with their I really haven't seen a guy yet looking through binoculars. A lot of it is with drones and remote reconnoitering. So now let me just share the total combat losses in Ukraine. This is sobering. Russia losses, 500,000 casualties, 124,710 killed in action. And again, I was impressed with the way they do their bean counting. It's very accurate. And so the wounded, so it's about a ratio of 3 wounded for every 1 killed. So today, you say plus 3,400. So let's see how many were 760. 860 were yesterday. The killed were 860. And today, it's 710. So that's 850, I think. 850. 800. It's 15. No, that's not right. $950? Let me check that again. I'm doing this in my head and I'm kind of slow right now. 860. Okay, so 960. 960. 900. 760. 850. Yeah, 16. Yeah, 850. I think that's 850. So 123,860 plus 850 is 124,710. So of the 3,400 casualties, 810 were killed. So 25, that's roughly 25%. A quarter were killed when it's lists the casualty count. So that's roughly a ratio of 3 to 1. 3 wounded for every 1 killed. But I mean, look at the number killed each day. So that would be, again, about 800 there, another 850 there killed in one day. I mean, this is, 800, 860, that's 780 killed. Yeah, almost 800 killed. So I'm just gonna, this is in this website here. You can just Google Russia's losses and you'll get this. I mean, but this is just staggering, the number of killed and then wounded. I mean, really, it wasn't taking about 700 dead a day and this many casualties total. They had allotted 190,000 personnel to the invasion, and now they have 400, approaching 500,000 casualties, 124,000 dead. I mean, this is just a staggering number. And so I'm going to analyze here. They've lost 46% of their armored combat vehicles. They lost 6 today. They've lost 96% of the tanks in their inventory. They'd only allotted 1,200 for the invasion, and they've lost 3,182. But I mean, they basically have no more tanks. They've lost half of their armored personnel carriers. They're now driving around in buses. Now they have lost a large. Their intended artillery was 1,600. They've already lost 2,180. They lost 11 artillery pieces today. And as I said, I saw the method of how Ukraine is able to destroy these artillery pieces, and be it a BMP, a stationary tank, any target. They just have the drone there. They have the coordinates, and their policy is like NATO doctrine: 1 shot, 1 kill. I mean, they're very accurate. And how they do it, I don't exactly know, but they're good. They're good. And goodness, what'll happen? Where I'm headed with this is what will happen to the Russians when they no longer have any tanks, if they have hardly any more armored vehicles, and they have no artillery. The only real offensive weapon one has now is either the tanks or the artillery. Other than that, you're just going to have guys with their rifles charging against huge cannons. It's just not going to be a fair fight. Cannons and aircraft. The Russian Air Force is not really participating actively in the combat region, and the Ukrainian forces are degrading the Russian air defense systems, so they will have freedom to operate in the air, and that's just going to be devastating. They're going to be wiping out soldiers at a just terrible rate, and so I don't, this be really sad for the soldiers, especially that don't want to be in this war at all, and they've gotten what happens, the way that they motivate these soldiers. First of all, they'll take prisoners from Russia, put them on the front lines, and they literally put a line of other, like, say, Russian regular troops, and say, if you retreat, you're going to be shot, or some of the officers. So they get these new conscripts that are just trained for 2 weeks and then thrown on the front lines. They're expendable. There's not really a lot of expectation that they're going to be anything but um, cannon fodder, targets for the enemy to reveal, for the Ukrainians to reveal their position. So these Russian men will be thrown into the assaulting Ukrainian positions. The Ukrainians will shoot at them and thereby reveal where their guns are located. And if they don't move, the Russians will fire artillery or whatever in those positions. It's just a horrific way of doing war. And if those frontline soldiers retreat, they'll be shot by the second line of soldiers. And if the second line starts retreating too, the third line of soldiers will shoot them. It's a terrible way to run a war. The policy that was in place in World War II by the Russian army is in place now. If you retreat, there'll be people back there to shoot you. And, these guys are being thrown in the battle with the expectation they're going to die. There's not any concern for their lives. They're ill-equipped. They're not well fed. The message is, you guys are disposable. We don't care. This is, they'll tell them it's a patriotic war, but it's not. So I expect, at the rate this is going, the Russian offensive capability will be so degraded that I don't think they can reasonably fight, not against a better and better equipped Ukrainian force. Now, that being said, behind me is a German World War II Tiger tank. The word Panzer means armored, and I really didn't know the meaning. Panzer, I thought it was a variant of Panther, and it's not. Panzers are armored. And there was a tank called the Panther in World War II, a German Panzer Panther, or Panther Panzer. So this has gotten the Russians really upset, because German Panzer units in World War II were at the gates of Moscow. Hitler had overrun huge swaths of Russia with blitzkrieg tactics, and it was led by German Panzers being armored units. And then the Panzerwaffe is like the armored arm of the German army. And so it got very upsetting. We have this headline here that Germany has authorized the sending of Panzers driven by Ukrainians, but still they're German Panzers to fight the Russians. This is bringing back some really unpleasant memories for the Russians, and they're understandably upset. So let me show another. Deutschland schickt Leopard Panzer in the Ukraine. That means Germany. Oops, sorry. Let me show my screen here. Yeah, that's it. Deutschland schickt Leopard Panzer in die Ukraine. Deutschland schickt Leopard Panzer in die Ukraine. Germany sends Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Germany sends Leopard tanks to Ukraine. So this is in Der Spiegel, a German publication. And this is unhappy news for the Russians. It's got them very, very upset. I have no personal beef with the Russian people or the Russian culture. I think a lot of this is really the Kremlin elites and Putin's inner circle that are really responsible for this tragedy. But this war has to be fought and resolved, and the 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 going wisdom is that if Ukraine wins this war, maybe Putin will be deposed, and that's what a lot of people are hoping. This war didn't have to happen. Um, Not that any war has to happen, but it really wasn't even in the best interest to do this. This policy of starting wars, a dictator starting wars in order to scapegoat other people for his failures. That's such a common play. Um, this was to help feed Ukraine, not Ukraine, but Putin's lust for power. So anyway, so German Panzers are not going to be rolling through Ukraine, even though it'll be driven by Ukrainian military personnel. Just the thought of this happening again, like in World War II, is very disconcerting to the Russians. And I almost had to smile, honestly. Uh, it's like, I mean, as Putin getting his comeuppance, I do feel sorry for the Russian troops that don't want to be a part of this, want anything to do with this. Now, the guys the Russians that are causing a lot of pain, I don't, to the Ukrainian population, I don't have any sympathy for them. So that being said, this is really kind of funny, but the Germans, even through the Nazi era, they had really good songs. I mean, that before I became an engineer, I had a musical background, and there is this German song called the Panzerlied, and it was a song that was popularized in the Battle of the Bulge movie. Let me see if I can bring a Panzerlied. So I'm just going to show still shots of this. I can't play it because I would get I probably get dinged for a copyright. So just give me. I'm not able to do, even if they'll let me play it. Doing it on a live stream can get me get my channel in trouble. So there is this scene in the movie Battle of the Bulge, and let me just show it to you all. And this, ironically, now Nazi Germany had inflicted horrible casualties and death on American soldiers in Europe. But the Americans have had a grudging admiration for German army, particularly their tank and armored tactics on the battlefield. So much so, this was very interesting, that in the Iraq, the first Desert Storm War, when the Americans had just wiped out Iraqi armored units and they captured an Iraqi opposing tank commander. He went into the tank commander was then imprisoned, taken captive and put in an American armored vehicle, a Bradley. And the Iraqi tank commander noticed there was a picture of this famous German general, World War II general, Erwin Rommel, pasted inside an American armored vehicle. And he was saying, so why do you have a picture of your adversary in World War II? And the guy said, just shut up. That's why you're taken prisoner if you'd bothered to study your opponent. And the Americans to this day apply a lot of Erwin Rommel's tactics. Actually, there are a lot of other German generals that developed the tactics, but Rommel is just kind of just regarded in awe. Even though he was on the Nazi side of the World War II conflict, many of the Allied commanders considered him to be generally, he fought a clean fight and brilliant. the British press admiringly called him the Desert Fox because he kept beating so many British commanders. So it's just one of those things where even though he's your opponent, he's admired because he fought clean, and that's respected. You know, so it's just funny that the American military has adopted Erwin Rommel as some sort of hero. And yeah, so the caption is, why do U.S. soldiers have a picture of Erwin Rommel in their tank? So now, that being said, there's this movie, Battle of the Bulge, in 1965, the Battle of the Ardennes Forest, and it's a horrific battle toward the end of World War II. And this movie was about that battle, had a tremendous amount of artistic license. And then there's this scene there where the German armored units are preparing for battle, and they start singing this thing called a Panzerlied. It's a song about tanks. And the Americans heard this. The American armored units in the USA heard this, and they said, we love that song, we're adopting it. So they informally started singing it. Now, this song is banned in Germany. So if you look this up, you'll actually hear how I'm going to try to sing, and I can't sing it well. I'm going to butcher it for sure. But I'll read about this Panzerlied, that it may be sung in the United States, but it is not, it's just not politically correct in Germany. So Panzerlied, which means tank song, was a Wehrmacht, which is German army, was a Wehrmacht military march of the Nazi era, sung primarily by the Panzerwaffe. That's the armored part of the military, the tank force of Germany during World War II. Okay, the Panzerlied, the tank song, was a Wehrmacht military march of the Nazi era, sung primarily by the Panzerwaffe, the tank force of Nazi Germany during World War II. It is one of the best-known songs of the Wehrmacht and is popularized by the 1965 film Battle of the Bulge. And I just showed that right there. It was that film. It is still used today by the Chilean and Brazilian armies. The modern-day German army has discontinued its use due to the song's Nazi origins. Panzerlied was composed in 1933 by Oberleutnant Kurt Wille. In 2017, the German army was banned from publishing songbooks containing Panzerlied and other marching songs by the Minister of Defense Ursula von der Leyen as part of new efforts at denazification. The song is sung by some motorized and parachute units of the Italian army, especially the 185th Paratroopers Folgore, under the title of Sui Monti e Sui Mar. In France, the lyrics were adapted slightly to become Marche de something, Marche de Chars. In France, used by the 501st E Regiment de Chars de Combat. The half portion of the song was used for Namibian patriotic song and unofficial anthem under South African rule, thus Suidwesterlied. In songs of motorized and parachute units of the Brazilian army under the Canqueio da Tropa Blindada. A Spanish translation of the song is used by the Chilean army as an armored cavalry march and the Chilean Naval Academy as a pasacal. The lyrics of the Panzerlied were adapted to fit a Kriegsmarine song. Kriegsmarine is the Navy, the German Navy. Let's see what Kriegsmarine means. Kriegsmarine was the Navy of Germany from 1935 to 1945. Okay, sorry. And as I said, the Americans have adopted it informally. They'll get probably in trouble if it becomes formal. Um, so um, in the movie Battle of the Bulge, the tank units were singing this. The English translation is, whether it storms or snows, whether the sun smiles upon us, whether in the day's scorching heat or the ice cold the night, dusty are the faces, but joyful are our minds. Yes, our minds. Our tanks roar there in the storm winds. I'll read it again. It's this seems innocent enough. I don't, maybe the other verses are um yeah, definitely very militaristic. Whether it storms or snows, whether the sun smiles upon us, whether in the day's scorching heat or the ice cold of the night, dusty are the faces, but joyful are our minds. Yes, our minds. Our tanks roar there in the storm winds, with thundering motors fast as lightning against the enemy, safely inside our Panzers. Ahead of our comrades in combat, we stand alone. We stand alone, so we strike deep in the ranks of the enemy. When before us an enemy army then appears, shalt full gas be given and run to the enemy. What then do our lives count for? For our nation's army. Yes, nation's army. To die for Germany is our highest honor. With obstacles in minds, the opponent holds us up. We laugh about it, and upon them don't drive. And guns before us defend, hidden in the yellow sand. Yes, yellow sand. We search for our way, no others have found. And abandoned ones by treacherous luck, and to return we will no more back to home. Beating us the deathly bullet, calling our fate away. Yes, fate away. Then become the tank for us, an honorable grave. Whew. Okay, I'm going to attempt to sing this. Schnoil is here. I was just covering the history of the Panzerlied here. Since you just joined, you know that I had a fascination with military history. Just to update you, there was this article, Deutschland schickt Leopard Panzer in die Ukraine. Germany sends Leopard tanks to Ukraine. And this has gotten the Russians really upset. It's bringing back really bad memories for the Russians. Oh, yeah. And I was pointing out the U.S. Army has an interesting hero, Erwin Rommel of World War II. The U.S. Army just admires him. I mean, yes, a lot of Americans died because of Rommel, but there's always grudging respect for an opposing military commander. It's just the way it's played out throughout history. Big armies will fight each other, but if they fight clean, the opposing commander is respected. Many of modern U.S. Army tank tactics are adopted from Rommel and the tactics of the Blitzkrieg, very much. So I'm just pointing that out. And then in 1965, there was a movie, Battle of the Bulge, and they had this scene where the Panzerlied is sung. And because I'm a music student before an engineer or even being a biologist or physics guy, I was a musician. I actually like that song. I used to listen to lots of German opera. I love the German language. I can't speak it, but it sounds beautiful to my ear. And so just as a song, I liked it. Just hearing those guy voices with their deep voices, the way they sung it. So one can Google this and look for Panzerlied. You can hear it sung. And so during at the outset of the Ukraine war, I kept rooting for the Ukraine. Ukrainian army, and I said the only guys that I remember ever fighting the Russians with such ferocity were the Germans. Not that I really was rooting for Nazi Germany, obviously, but it was like, I wanted to see the same fight out of the Ukrainians, and they have fought very, very well. I am sad for the Christians on both sides, but I feel that this is Putin's war, and he needs to be stopped. I take no umbrage against the Russians as people, as individuals, unless those individuals are involved in war crimes. So I hope this war ends, but I have to say I'm really rooting for the Ukrainians to prevail, and then Putin will be deposed. This war didn't have to happen. But in any case, so I was reading how the Americans had started to, and other military started to adopt the Panzerlied. And I'm going to butcher this song, but I'll sing the first stanza. Obstimmt oders Neid, ob die Sonne uns lacht, der Tag glühend eist, oder eiskalte Nacht. Wer starb, sind die Geschickter, doch freut's unser Sinn, ja, unser Sinn. Es brast unser Panzer in Sturmwind dahin. Okay, there. I sang it. And there is this funny anecdote. I mean, it puts me in such a good mood. I didn't even understand what the words meant. But it put me in a good mood. And there was a time I was kind of sad about a particular young lady. And this guy posts on the internet. Oh, thank you, Schnoil. God bless you, brother. God bless you, dear brother. He said, I don't know why, but somehow this song literally helped me through a breakup of a relationship I was in for half a year. So this guy breaks up with a girl, and he's listening to this song, and it lifts his spirits. And funnily, in a strange way, I could totally relate. There was a girl I was a little heartbroken over, and I heard this song, and it cheered me up. Even when I totally didn't understand the words, I said, the way it was sung with such gusto, I said, I have to find out what the lyrics are. There are parts of it that are dark, but then there are parts that are kind of, uplifting. And anyway, so there were some funny comments here. You are the Panzer elite, brothers in arms. One guy said, I haven't had any girlfriend, but this song is enough to make me happy. And there's one. A boy loves his girlfriend. A Mongol loves his horse. A man loves his Panzer. Said, congratulations, you are now a man. Now sing. Because it helps a lot to keep you in high spirits. Oh, I like this. Relationships come and go, but the Panzer boys on YouTube will always be with you. Just you and the boys. Love is temporary. Panzerwaffe is eternal. Hold fast, comrade. Relationships are temporary. Panzerlied is forever. Your Panzer will never leave you. It'll always be there for you. So, Schnoels, I like this. Panzerlied, better than girlfriend. Well, brotherhood, with that, I'll close on that happy note. And I know this is such a tragic and serious world. We need a little lightheartedness. Jesus said there will be wars and rumors of wars, but we have hope that this will not last forever. may Christians on both sides of this conflict find solace in their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I pray, um, I pray for my brothers and sisters out there, and one of them is actually Mr. Jetty89. You're in our thoughts and prayers, dear brother, and you're visiting this channel as your nation was being bombed, and you're showing support and kindness to me and your brethren here. God bless you. Schnoil, brother, thank you for joining in, and the Lord richly bless you. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.